I'm working for Mel Brooks.
Not in the face!
What the hell am I looking at?
May the Schwartz be with you.
During a lunch break on Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks noticed Gene Wilder was writing out a story idea for a movie on a pad of paper. Mel asked if this was his dream idea, and Gene Wilder responded by saying, "My dream is for you to write this movie with me, and for you to direct it as well." When editing the crazy western, Mel and Gene hammered out a story idea over Earl Grey tea and digestive biscuits. While Blazing Saddles had yet to be released, no one would predict the magnitude of success that Mel and his crew would experience. For the year 1974 started off with Blazing Saddles being a surprise hit, but another one was gained too, as the year concluded on the monster hit that was known as Young Frankenstein. The premise involves a basic what-if that almost feels fitting in the world of not only Universal's famed horror franchise, but even that of Mary Shelley. It centers on Frederick Frankenstein, the grandson of Baron Frankenstein, who is an uptight scientist who thinks otherwise about reanimating dead tissue.
You have more chance of reanimating this scalpel than you have of mending a broken nervous system.
But what about your grandfather's work, sir?
My grandfather's work was doo-doo!
Even if he is a scientist, Frederick still carries the crazy nature of the family name, an aspect so deep in his blood and heart that even he doesn't know it. Frederick gains ownership of the Frankenstein estate and meets all sorts of strange characters who are parodies of traditional tropes we associate with classic horror. The hunchback assistant, the mysterious housekeeper, and to boot, a bombshell of an assistant whose flirtations are oblivious to the lead.
Elevate me.
Now? Right here?
Yes. Raise the platform.
Once he finds the secrets of his grandfather's work, Frederick decides to make a monster in similar fashion, but with the hope to do better. And yet, how funny history tends to repeat itself.
Funny thing is, I tried.
I have pure bragging rights to say that this was the first Mel Brooks movie I saw when I was young. Technically, Spaceballs was the first, but I saw bits and pieces of that one, so it doesn't really count. This one, I saw in full. I was about 7 or 8 and flipping through the channels and bumped across this one, and for a moment I thought I was watching a classic monster movie from the 1930s. Boy was I fooled when this turned out to be not only my introduction to Mel Brooks' work, but almost a gateway into what I would eventually see the Universal monster features. When I turned 9, I saw James Whale's Frankenstein, and found it unique how Mel Brooks' parody was so close to the original classic. Even Mel Brooks himself has claimed that he actually saw the first Frankenstein film back when it was released in theaters in 1931, and it left such an impression on him that he never forgot it. So it feels fitting for him to create a movie that's not only a comedic take on the Frankenstein story, but one that feels fitting as a loving tribute as well. Young Frankenstein spares no expense in toying with audience expectations and showing why we enjoy the horror classics.
What a filthy job.
While also toying with audience misconceptions to the point it jabs at common mix-ups with a good laugh. Even though the true backbone of its parodies in the first two Frankenstein movies, it's more so arguably a comedic take on the third film, Son of Frankenstein. It carries the same story with Baron Wolf Frankenstein, going through the same situation of inheriting his family's business, but in the hope of turning things around. A lot of elements we associate with the Frankenstein films oddly stem from this entry. True, there was a hunchback assistant in the first movie, but his name was Fritz and played by Dwight Frye.
The brain you stole, Fritz. Think of it. The brain of a dead man, waiting to live again in a body I made.
In Son of Frankenstein, we get Igor, and it's Bela Lugosi's demented performance that makes this character a major staple to whenever we think of anything Frankenstein related.
You see that? They hanged me once, Frankenstein. They broke my neck.
No, what are you doing here?
They threw me in here long ago. They wouldn't bury me in holy place like churchyard. Igor is dead.
This aspect is spoofed here in the form of Igor, who even addresses the problem of movie-going misconstructions with one simple joke.
You must be Igor.
No, it's pronounced Igor.
But they told me it was Igor.
Well, they were wrong then, weren't they?
An interesting thing to take note is how Mel Brooks does not appear in this movie at all, but does remain as a voice and lends himself to some sound effects at times.
Just think, a dead brain, ready to live again in a new body.
This was in part because of the fact that Gene Wilder felt the script was so good enough to the point that if Mel Brooks actually played a part in the flick, it would cause a suspension of disbelief, and he knew Mel pretty well that he would break the fourth wall at some point. Though the movie does flow fine without Mel's appearance, it leaves one to wonder what it would have been like if he actually played a character in the film, let alone anyone at all. I mean, he did play a small role in the last two flicks, so it's kind of a shame he doesn't, and yet his trademark humor is all throughout the flick, so in a way, he seems to haunt it as opposed to star in it. But we still have a great cast of talents here. Gene Wilder's in top form here as Frederick Frankenstein. This is a guy who carries a lot of ambition, but wants to be his own. Even to the point he would rather have his last name pronounced differently.
I have one question, Dr. Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
He clearly wants to distance himself from the family name, literally and figuratively, until he believes he can change things around.
But I'd rather be remembered for my own small contributions to science, and not because of my accidental relationship to a famous cuckoo.
This is probably my favorite Gene Wilder performance to date. Yeah, there's Willy Wonka, but what I love more about Frederick are the different tones he presents. This is a mad scientist true and through, but he doesn't start off overly manic. The switches Gene has from calmness to pure insanity are both funny and true to the character. It would have been so easy to have him shout and act crazy throughout the whole feature. Thankfully, it only goes so far when it needs to be. Take this scene for example when Frederick talks to Igor about the brain they installed into the creature. You can just see the wheels slowly turning in his head when Igor spills they put an abnormal brain in. The slow build of him expressing his anger makes for a pure punchline on how he escalates his displeasure.
Are you saying that I put an abnormal brain into a 7.5-foot long, 54-inch wide gorilla? Is that what you're telling me?
But the one that defines his performance for me is the speech he gives when they bring the creature to life. It's on two levels of poignancy and an over-exaggerated nature of how well written the dialogue is, to how hilariously Frederick is oblivious to how high the platform is rising up and up to the atmosphere. I mean, how's he able to balance himself in that small space when it's rising upwards? And of course you have fun side characters. Marty Feldman steals the whole show as the hunchback assistant Igor. Feldman himself was already well established in England as a talented comedian, which goes beyond more than just his famous misaligned eyes. This guy worked with some famous members of Monty Python on At Last, the 1948 show.
Right away that we don't have Carnaby fudge by Darls Tickins or Stickwick Staples by Miles Pickens with 4 M's and a silent Q. Why don't you try the chemist?
I have. They sent me here.
Did they?
Especially credited as the co-writer for the famous 4 Yorkshiremen sketch.
Oh, I used to dream of living in a corridor. That would have been a palace to us. We used to live in a water tank on rubbish tip.
I would be surprised if comedy was based in his bloodstream. Just look at the timing and reactions he gives.
What is this? Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. Oh, do you like it? I'm not partial to desserts myself, but this is excellent. Who are you talking to? To you. You just made a yummy sound, so I thought you liked the dessert.
I didn't make a yummy sound. I just asked you what it is.
Feldman really knows how to add comedy to the scene without overdoing it or being a distraction.
No matter how terribly I may scream, do not open this door or you will undo everything I've worked for. Do you understand?
Nice working with you.
It's not the lines themselves, but just how Feldman delivers them. He's the wisecracker, the additional piece of commentary, like he's 2 steps ahead of everyone. Even his massive hump tends to move for no apparent reason, an actual prank Marty did intentionally to see if anyone would notice, and their reaction is so genuine that you can't help but laugh. While it was a prank on set, it does make me think back to how inconsistent some things would be in classic horror movies, even if small. Hell, you should see the pieces of Marty's performance they didn't keep in. It says a lot when the joy of one's performance is laughing at the cut stuff and thinking, I wish there was more of him in here, or why was this cut? That's actually a good gag, without the feeling of it being too much.
I know, I can read. But if I don't take it, how are we going to make a monster?
We all know what has to be done.
Lots of matches, right, boss?
No, it's too late for that now.
You're doing beautifully. Tighten the pauses and don't lose your energy. You're killing them.
Where's your hump?
Never with tails.
Oh, mein Gott. It's the villagers. Quick, do something. Stall them.
Stole them. You give the orders and I do all the work. I wish I were a girl.
Cloris Leachman is the pure riot as Frau Blucher, the housekeeper of the Frankenstein castle. A funny send-up to the creepy servants one would find in, say, This Old Dark House. But just seeing Leachman play this so straight to a T, even if the comedic beats of her character are small.
So that I would?
Yes!
Then you and Victor were?
Yes! Say it! He was my boyfriend!
There's the fat horse's whine at the very mention of her name.
I am Frau Blucher.
Which is meant to be a take on the dramatic Sting cliché when a villainous character's name is introduced.
Good night, Herr Doctor.
Good night, Frau Blucher.
For a while, folks thought it was because her last name meant glue in German, which is something even Mel Brooks would find out later after the movie was made. That's funny, but there's little things she does that still get a laugh out of me, like how she guides them up the stairs and doesn't have the candles on the candelabra lit.
Stay close to the candles. The staircase can be treacherous.
Or when Frederick wants to go to sleep and she keeps offering him all sorts of beverages. The small pauses and frustrated expressions on Jean's face just add to the swinging effect of how she won't leave him alone.
Would the doctor care for a brandy before retiring?
No.
Some warm milk?
No, thank you very much.
Ovaltine.
Nothing. Thank you.
Terry Garr's another standout as Frederick's assistant Inga, who at times you kind of wonder if she just wants to sleep with him, or is oblivious with her advances as much as Frederick is to her.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? It's fun! Roll in the hay.
I resolve, therefore, to make the creature of a gigantic stature.
He would have an enormous Schwanzstücke.
That goes without saying.
Oof.
What knockers?
Oh,
Thank you, Doctor.
There is a fiancée in the form of Elizabeth, played by Madeline Kahn, who is so clean-cut to the point she wants to stick with the pure and innocent love interest tone. That is very much a stab at the Hays Code manner of sensuality that was present at the time.
Oh, my only love.
Taffeta, darling.
Taffeta, sweetheart.
No, the dress is taffeta. It wrinkles so easily.
Oh.
It's a funny element, but more so when Frederick meets Inga, and you can tell she's more open with her flirtatious nature to the point you do wonder if he should end up with her instead. And they play that so well with Frederick being unmindful to her mannerisms that doesn't drag the movie down too much. Kenneth Mars returns as Inspector Kemp, a spoof of the Inspector Crow character from The Son of Frankenstein. The timing of Mars's accent and his will to play this role straight as to how one in a classic horror movie is where the comedy horror shines. In different hands, it would be over the top, but Kenneth's performance is not all shouting and rambling. There is a baseline of the character who is neutral, but is still overly suspicious. And his thick Transylvanian accent lends to a lot of humorous mispronunciations by just how simple words are said, even if they're not meant to be funny.
He will curse the day that there was born a Frankenstein. What? I said he will curse the day that there was born a Frankenstein.
The most distinguishing character trait is the fake wooden arm Kemp has here, something of which carried over from the Crow character.
The savage brute sent him crashing to a corner. Then he grabbed me by the arm.
Now, for the record, I never saw Son of Frankenstein until I was an adult, so for a while, I never understood why Inspector Kemp had a wooden arm for a good majority of the time. It felt weird to me. Only for years later to find out they did carry over the explanation into Young Frankenstein, but they cut it out.
Oh, war wound?
9. It was ripped out of its socket by the fiendish monster that your grandfather created. I thought we might have a little chat.
Oh. As much as I wish that scene was in the theatrical cut, I guess it goes without saying that if you do have a respectful knowledge of the original Frankenstein movies, you get it and you don't quite need it. But a simpleton like me who never was properly introduced to those films at a young age, little things like that can go right over my head. And of course I can't forget the best for last, which could have made or broken the movie, Peter Boyle as the Frankenstein monster. I love how Frederick follows the same footsteps of creation, and yet he still doesn't know how to make a reanimated being look handsome. And yet these two, in my opinion, are arguably the hottest takes of the monster in any adaptation of Frankenstein. Even though an abnormal brain is given, I do like how this portrayal of the famed creature doesn't exactly murder anyone. Yeah, at one point he does strangle a policeman after being provoked, but it's not like the monster straight up murders without reason. And it's Peter Boyle's body language and expressions that help communicate what he's thinking. There's a famous scene where he stumbles across a blind man played by Gene Hackman, and it plays around with that what if on how things could have been different. From pouring hot soup in his crotch to setting the monster's thumb on fire, it's Peter's reactions that make this scene iconic comedically. I still die of laughter when he gives a look after the hermit smashes his cup during a toast.
Yes. Long friendship.
One simple roll of the eyes, and you can only sympathize with his thought of, I'm gonna be stuck with this guy, aren't I? But even equally funnier, if not maybe more, is his encounter with the little girl. In the original 1931 movie, the creature does interact with the small child, which leads to a tragedy of misunderstanding.
No, you're hurting me! No!
In Young Frankenstein, it's all summed up in one look.
Oh dear, nothing left. What shall we throw in now?
Okay, quick context here. The original 1931 Frankenstein endured a lot of censorship battles even upon its first release, including the moment where the Frankenstein monster innocently chucks a little girl into the lake, thinking that she'll float like the little flowers they tossed in. And so for a while, this scene was missing, and we had this censored version until the early 1980s when an original uncut copy of the movie surfaced in the UK. And considering it took about roughly 50 years or so for this missing scene to finally see the light of day, boy, did it leave one to fill in the blanks with their imagination to consider exactly what the Frankenstein monster did to the little girl.
Because that scene was missing for years, some features, like The Spirit of the Beehive, would commentate on how one missing moment could drastically change the narrative of a movie. In that feature, a girl named Anna watches the edited version of Frankenstein without the scene of the monster tossing the girl in, leading her to disturbingly question the nature of the action.
Young Frankenstein does the same, but obviously to a more comedic take. I remind, the lake tossing scene was missing for decades, so the look Peter Boyle gives was parodying on audience anticipation. Now with that scene restored, this moment is presented in a different light, with the monster literally questioning the audience, what would you at home do? There's a scene near the end that I dare won't spoil that truly provides why Peter Boyle's performance is so iconic here. I won't give away too much, but let's just say it's on par with Leo Bloom's speech at the end of The Producers, but very, very heartfelt. Imagine, all it takes for creation to save creator is by doing so in a more well-thought-out manner.
Folks, I can't do this movie enough justice. I would have to break this down scene by scene, and it would be unfair to newcomers. It's so quotable, so hilarious, and by far memorable that you're better off seeing the movie than hear me praise it. And most of it comes from how everyone is putting their energy into making something close to the Universal monster movies. They are not just saying funny jokes or doing funny things. A baseline of what makes the comedy so good here is how they make us wonder what happened if this did take place in a world of a classic Frankenstein movie.
Now listen to me very carefully. Don't put the candle back.
Even to the point it's filmed and edited like one, which was something that almost didn't get the movie made.
Young Frankenstein was originally pitched to Columbia Pictures, and they liked it so much that they greenlit it, until Mel Brooks mentioned that it was going to be filmed purely in black and white, to which, of course, they balked at the idea. Instead, Mel and crew sent it over to Alan Ladd Jr., who was running 20th Century Fox at the time, and enjoyed the script so much that he understood why it was in black and white, eventually leading to a 3-picture deal contract with 20th Century Fox.
The look of the production design really helped sell this could take place in the Universal monster world. From the soundstage sets to even the lab equipment that was saved by Kenneth Strickfaden, who did special effects for the James Whale Frankenstein movie. No joke. Strickfaden literally had these props sitting around his garage. Mel visited him, and Brooks was delighted to see the gadgets and pieces still working after all these years. Young Frankenstein would be the last movie Kenneth Strickfaden would lend his talents to, but a special credit would be given to him for his work on this movie. A first for Strickfaden, whose craft would go uncredited in the original Frankenstein movies for Universal. Knowing that does make me wish this was a follow-up to Son of Frankenstein, especially when you consider Wolf's son looks like a mini Gene Wilder. Another veteran of classic special effects talent that still shouldn't go unnoticed is William Tuttle, whose work includes episodes of The Twilight Zone, Forbidden Planet, early assistant work on The Wizard of Oz, and various George Pal productions, including The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe.
I was born in the year 1204. I am 7,322 years old.
I'm 8 going on 9.
When he heard this movie was going to be in black and white, he was overjoyed knowing how ridiculous the blue and green skin paint would look in color. I like the look of the monster here, who is dangerous but not too far to the point it doesn't lose the look of an angel.
This is a nice boy. This is a good boy. This is a mother's angel.
I especially like how instead of neck bolts, it's a zipper that's used to keep the creature's head on. A simple addition that, again, is small but gets a lot of laughs.
While Blazing Saddles was released to wide acclaim, Young Frankenstein's first rough cut was 2 hours and 22 minutes and didn't do so hot in its first test screening. Mel Brooks and his editor, John C. Howard, really got their nose to the grindstone in creating a version of this movie that was tighter, leaner, faster, and funnier. Though it is kind of a shame to see so much stuff was left on the cutting room floor, there are some smart deletions.
The one scene I'm glad that is not in the final cut is the reading of the will. Clocking in at an agonizing 7.5 minutes, it's just the remaining relatives of Frankenstein literally listening to the Baron's will and testament on a record.
Did you get all that? Yes. Are you sure you got rankling my wounds?
Yes, I did.
I'll kill you if you screw this up.
It's a funny idea, and yeah, there are some good gags thrown in, like how they have to flip the record to hear the rest, or a scratch on the track unintentionally makes it sound like he's saying something else to them.
Must be climbed up the barren mountain of my soul, and not of yours, of yours, of yours.
But good lord, this scene is a chore to sit through. And we don't even see these characters again anyway, so there's no point to their existence here.
Shit.
There's Frederick debating if he wants to accept the E-state, which is kind of interesting. And what makes him change his mind is a random flip of his mental switch. I like this scene more for the technical aspect, given a good bulk of it is performed in one shot. And the soundstage they're on looks good, but yeah, we've already seen how manic Frederick's personality can be during a teaching with his class, so there's no point to having this in.
The violinist, you smashed his violin over your knee.
I did not do that. Why would I do a thing like that? Are you insane?
There's a scene where the monster bumps into a street robber who, of course, has no idea what he's dealing with.
I've got to get glasses. I've got to see these people.
Given this scene occurs just right after the blind hermit gag, it does feel kind of repetitive having two nearsighted gags back to back, so I can see why this got cut.
There's other deleted scenes I wish they kept in, but for the sake of acting. One moment is when Frederick captures the monster after it gets loose, and Frau convinces him he can fix the problem, because the family name is in his blood.
Beyond failure, beyond ridicule, beyond pain, the recreation of life!
There are some good jokes here, but from a character standpoint, I just love the way Jean and Cloris bounce off each other here. There's even an exciting moment when Frederick actually questions to Inga the manner of their relationship.
We know very well what we can and what we can not.
Then again, cutting from this...
There was some way I could help to relieve the tension. If there was just some way I could give you a little peace.
And going straight into this...
I'm sorry, Doctor. This cable came while you were gone.
I thought I told you never to interrupt me while I'm working.
Is arguably much funnier.
Again, there's a lot of great beats from Jean and Terry that show how much they loved bringing a lot of life to their roles. Aside from that, it's just bits and pieces which are interesting, but nothing really exciting to make mention of.
What is it? What is it?
Termites!
Oh my God!
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I can't stand the termites. They're very dangerous to my part.
There is one deleted scene that has not fully surfaced yet, but I would be curious to see if it exists in some shape or form. Originally there was a moment where Igor is questioned if he took the normal brain instead of the abnormal one, to which of course Igor replies, "It is the normal one, and if I'm lying, may my mother grow a second head." And then we immediately cut to Igor's mother, who has a second head growing right on her shoulder. Yeah, surreal as it sounds, it does prove exactly how to great lengths one would go to depict a strange gag like that, only to see it go to the cutting room floor. Pieces like that really show how Mel Brooks and crew were very disciplined on slimming this thing down to create a cut of the movie that works.
I'm happy to say there were no egos clashing each other. Everyone had a good time making this movie. So much so, the crew had to find ways to hold back their laughter during the comedy. Thus, Mel and crew had to stuff their mouths with white handkerchiefs so they wouldn't ruin the takes. But that didn't stop them from making crack-ups.
Let me smell your breath.
You haven't even touched your food.
There. Now I've touched it.
Certainly. You take the blonde and I'll take the one in the turban.
Stop that!
Basta.
May I go in?
When production was over, Gene said to Mel, "I have ideas for more scenes." Brooks responded, "Gene, it's over. We got a beginning, middle, and end." All Gene Wilder could do was complain about how production was over, citing this was the happiest time of his life. And you do see that love and attention here. It's rare you have a comedy where everyone got along and had the time of their lives working on it. Young Frankenstein is one such movie where a lot of that shines. When I think of Mel Brooks, this is the entry I turn to a lot. It not only serves as a good introduction to Mel Brooks' work, but also the Universal monsters. It was a great way to think of the classic era of horror in a different light. Sure, a lot of comedy horrors existed before then, but this one did something different. By getting close to the source in terms of filming, writing, and acting, it made for an effective movie that does more than lampoon the genre, but also shows why these traditional horror tropes and cliches are iconic to us. In retrospect, 1974 was an interesting year for Mel Brooks. It started with Blazing Saddles being a massive hit, and the year concluded with Young Frankenstein being a pure monster smash at the box office. True, the movie went head-to-head that holiday season with The Towering Inferno and The Godfather Part 2, but it was still a success nonetheless, earning $86.2 million, which is impressive for a movie that was at a budget of $2.78 million. It's fair to say this was a much better year for Mel Brooks than it was for Richard Nixon. Joking aside, this movie is a pure must-watch. If you like classic horror, this is for you. And if not, I can't recommend this enough. Everyone deserves a good laugh once in a while, and this is one creation that still brings much life to laughter. Now, as hinted earlier, this movie was part of a 3-picture deal that Mel Brooks did with 20th Century Fox. And considering Young Frankenstein was such a big hit, executives couldn't go wrong with The Funny Man. But what about those other 2 flicks that Mel did for them? Well, we're going to get back to that, because while Mel Brooks' career was going up and up and up, Gene Wilder wanted to stab at the parody genre as well. And what was the result, you asked? Join me in my next video. I'll tell you all about it. Cut.
I think the thing that makes Frankenstein live as a concept, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a creature disformed who has love in his heart wants to be loved and is misunderstood is a classic theme. People have tried it in other ways, but it's always worked best, I think, in the Frankenstein frame. And even though we were doing a comedy, a ridiculous comedy, that classic theme is still there. And I think that's why it lives.
Hi, this is your man on the street talking to an average moviegoer who has just seen The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. Would you say that Madeline Kahn and Gene Wilder... Is there lots of suspense? Romance? 20th Century Fox presents Gene Wilder, Madeline Kahn, Marty Feldman in The... Also starring Dom DeLuise. Rated PG,